Of course, one of the great inventions of Chinese civilization is the language and its writing. Chinese writing has been around as long as China itself. Chinese is a Sinitic language. Most of its words are monosyllabic. Unlike Western phonetic style languages and writing systems, what this means is if you have the word, for example, shang, it can mean mountain or mountains. In China, there are no differentiations for verbs such as to come, to go, or it doesn't really have an inflection on it. It's a tonal language. It's 4 tones. So the word is the meaning of the word will come out from the tone and the context in which from which it's found. So the word she, for example, can mean house, lion, corpse, tend, die, swear. I think Jian has over 20 different meanings. Ma, depending on the tone, can mean mother. It can mean hemp or horse or curse. It's been around for a long time. We know that the Chinese writing, we find Chinese writing as early as the 2nd millennium BCE in the Shang dynasty, the Shang period. It's found in these tortoise shells and these bones that were used for divinatory purposes. Some of this has been found at the very well-known archaeological site at Anyang, this Bronze Age archaeological site. But the writing has also been found, obviously, on silk, on bamboo, and then, of course, paper made of plant fibers. The speakers of the Chinese language today probably have a great deal more intimate connection with the sort of ancient texts because of this sort of continuity. It was traditionally written from top to bottom until very recently. Today, there are probably 8,000 to 9,000 characters that someone needs to know in order to read Chinese texts. If you get a Chinese dictionary, there are probably over 25,000 variants or characters in the language today. But we can classify Chinese writing into 3 kind of very basic categories. The first one is pictograms, which has become very stylistic. And you see these on these ancient oracle bones for divination, where the picture represents really the idea. So if you want to say sun, you simply draw the sun, and you want to say moon, you draw the moon. You want to say tree, you can actually see the branches and the roots in the tree. You can even say something more complex. If you wanted to write sacrifice, you'd have 2 hands holding a bird over the symbol for spirit. The second category is ideograms. And ideograms is an idea that you want to convey. As an example, you can do numbers. If you wanted to say bright, you'd have the image of the moon and the sun together. If you wanted to say woman, you'd have the sort of the symbol for woman over the roof. So you could essentially say a whole number of things conceptually using ideograms. And then finally, you have phonetograms using this phonetic principle where the character, the sound of the character, the pronunciation is identical to the meaning in which you wish to convey. We know, for example, the sound for swim and forever are similar, and so that's how the character is developed. Or the back of the body is similar to the character for north. I believe the sound for grain is similar to the Chinese word to come. Many of these phonetic principles have the phonetogram and something called a signifier, which sort of tells you the category in which it is found. Chinese writing has great advantages and disadvantages. I think compared to Western phonetically based scripts, I think that the disadvantage is it's so complex, it takes a lot more effort to study and learn characters. You have to memorize characters. Someone needs to know 2,000 to 3,000 just to read the basic text, really. So there is this emphasis on rote memorization, which may have hindered literacy in China. It's also very complicated to write, so some characters may require 12 to 13 brush strokes. Other characters may require up to 20, 25 brush strokes. And even though printing was invented in China, the characters make it much more difficult and a challenge to print. So those are some of the challenges. Now, there are some benefits or advantages of the Chinese writing system. One advantage is simply the complexity of the characters gives it more of an artistic, aesthetic quality to it. The calligrapher's brush is the writer's brush. Someone who writes well, someone who has good penmanship, so to speak, is respected. The other thing is the characters themselves have this sort of richer substance, this sort of subtler quality that you don't see in Western scripts. I mean, who can forget what peace means when you see that character? And apparently it's also, once you learn the characters, it's actually faster to read than Western script. So it has this sort of beauty about it. You can tell a lot about a person's personality by looking at their writing in Chinese. And the Chinese imbued the writing with almost a sacred quality. And there's sort of a story of how Chinese scholars refused to destroy paper that had writing on it because it was considered to be sacred. And this sacred quality means that there's a veneration of education, which may explain why East Asian countries have higher literacy rates than countries with comparable economies. And then I think also what the writing does is, whether you're speaking Mandarin or Cantonese, because the text is the same, it's allowed China to overcome these linguistic obstacles in dialect. So you're reading the same text, and it's allowed China to become a single nation, or to be classified as a single nation because of that. Had China developed a more phonetically based writing system, it's very possible China would have fragmented into different countries like Europe, Italy, France, Germany, and so on. And of course, Chinese writing is venerated and used as the classical writing in Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. And so the people of these countries can understand each other, when they see each other's books and newspapers. So it's a very important and formidable development.